And welcome back, everyone. Today is January 9th, 2026, and we're going to be talking about 18 years ago today, the launch of the Earth iPhone, which happened on January 9th, 2007. So today we'll be reading that Wikipedia page. iPhone. The iPhone is a line of smartphones developed and marketed by Apple that run iOS, the company's own mobile operating system. The first generation iPhone was announced by then CEO and co-founder Steve Jobs on January 9th, 2007 at Macworld 2007 and launched later that year. Since then, Apple has annually released new iPhone models and iOS versions. The latest models being the iPhone 17, the higher-end iPhone 17 Pro, and the 17 Pro Max, and the thinner iPhone Air. As of July 2025, more than 3 billion iPhones have been sold. And Apple has the largest vendor of mobile phones since 2023. The original iPhone was the first mobile phone to use multi-touch technology throughout its history. The iPhone has gained larger, higher resolution displays, video recording functionality, waterproofing, and many accessibility features. Up to the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, iPhones had a single button on the front panel, with the iPhone 5S and later integrating the Touch ID fingerprint scanner. Since the iPhone X, iPhone models have switched to nearly bezel-less front screen design with Face ID, facial recognition, in the place of the Touch ID for authentication, and increased use of gestures in place of the home button for navigation. The iPhone, which operates using Apple's proprietary iOS software, is one of two major smartphone platforms in the world alongside Android. The first generation iPhone was described by Steve Jobs as revolutionary. For the mobile phone industry, the iPhone has been credited with popularizing the slate smartphone form factor and with creating a large market for smartphone apps or app economy, laying the foundation for the boom of the market for mobile devices. In addition to apps that come pre-installed on the iOS, there are nearly 2 million apps available for the download for Apple's mobile distribution marketplace, the App Store, as of August 2024. All right, a little bit of the history. So we'll start with the 2000s. Development of the Apple smartphone began in 2004 when the company started to gather a team of 1,000 employees led by hardware engineer Tony Fadell, software engineer Scott Forstall, and design officer Johnny Ive to work on the highly confidential Project Purple. Then Apple CEO Steve Jobs steered the original focus away from a tablet, which was later revisited to form the iPad. Today, towards a phone. Apple created the device during a secretive collaboration with Singularity Wireless, later renamed AT&T Mobility, at an estimated development cost of $150 million over 30 months. According to Jobs, in 1998, the and iMac, and thereafter iPod, iPhone, and iPad stands for Internet, Individual, Instruct, Inform, and Inspire. Apple rejected the design by committee approach that had yielded Motorola Roker E1, a largely unsuccessful iTunes phone made in collaboration with Motorola. Among other deficiencies of the Roker E1's firmware, limited storage to only 100 iTunes songs, avoided competing with Apple's iPod Nano, singularly gave Apple the liberty to develop the iPhone's hardware and software in-house, a rare practice at the time, and paid Apple a fraction of its monthly service revenue until the iPhone 3G. In exchange for 4 years of exclusive US sales until 2011. Jobs unveiled the first generation iPhone to the public on January 9th, 2007 at the Macworld 2007 convention at the Moscone Center in San Francisco. The iPhone incorporated a 3.5 multi-touch display with a few hardware buttons. The ran iPhone OS operating system with touch-friendly interface, then marketed as a version of Mac OS X. It was the first mobile phone to use multi-touch technology. The device launched on June 29th, 2007, at a starting price of $499 USD. Wow, now they're like well over 1,000. In the United States, and required a 2-year contract with AT&T. The price was reduced by a third after 2 months, resulting complaints forced Jobs to issue an apology and offer a partial rebate for early purchasers of the iPhone. On July 11th, 2008, Apple's Worldwide Development Conference, Apple announced the iPhone 3G expanded its launch day availability to 22 countries. It was eventually released in 70 countries and territories. The iPhone 3G introduced faster 3G connectivity and lower starting price of $199 USD and a 2-year contract with AT&T. It proved commercially popular, overtaking Motorola Razr V3 as the best-selling cell phone in the US by the end of 2008. A successor, the iPhone 3GS, was announced on June 8, 2009 at WWDC 2009 and introduced video recording functionality. All right, so let's skip to today. All right, so today, the iPhone 17 and 17 Pro Max and 17 Pro and iPhone Air were announced on September 9th, 2025. These devices feature a faster A19 and A19 Pro chip, improved CPU and GPU performance, including faster AI tasks, which was going to be never a thought in the first iPhone. The always-on display and ProMotion 120 Hz are standard now in all new iPhones in the September 2025 lineup. The iPhone Air is the thinnest iPhone made yet, and it is the first iPhone to only have a speaker from the earpiece only. The iPhone Air also features the new C1X cellular modem, which uses 30% less energy than the previous C1 chips. The iPhone 17 Pro models do not have this and instead use Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 X80 modem. The new Pro lineup is distinctive camera plateau bump. The 17 Pro models also switch back to the aluminum body for better heat disposition and feature the first for iPhone a vapor chamber cooling system which helps regulate heat in heavy workloads. They also have the biggest battery life of any iPhone model yet. That's what they say every year, and it still dies fast. Alrighty, so we started with the iPhone, the first one, and now we're all the way to the 17, but somewhere between 8 and X. There's no 9 also. But let's keep scrolling. Alrighty. Also, there's a thing called jailbreaking. I don't know if anybody's ever had a jailbroken iPhone. It kind of lets you free reign on it. Apple restricts the installation of unapproved third-party apps and does not allow full access to the iPhone's file system. According to Jonathan Zittrain, the emergency The emergence of closed devices like the iPhone has made computing more proprietary than it was in the PC era. Jailbreaking allows users to install apps not available in the App Store, customize their device in ways not allowed by Apple, and bypassing SIM locks without carrier approval. Some jailbreak tweaks were later copied by Apple to implement into iOS, like multitasking widgets and copy and paste. Apple attempted to use the DMCA to fight jailbreaking. However, in 2010, US jailbreaking found to be legal. Jailbroken iPhones are at a higher risk to malware due to Apple's lesser control of the app ecosystem. In the United States, Apple cannot void an iPhone's warranty solely due to jailbreaking. Jailbreaks rely on exploits. Apple has improved the iPhone's hardware and software security, making the exploits harder to find. As a result, recent iPhones cannot currently be jailbroken. All right, let's go down. Yeah, security. Apple's usually known to have one of the most secure phones out there, from my knowledge, which is limited. So, security. Apple's iOS operating system is regarded by some security experts as more secure against common malware than Android. Less than 1% of mobile malware targets iOS devices. Prior to 2014, the iPhone stored all messages, pictures, videos, contacts, audio recordings, and call history in unencrypted form, enabling easy access by law enforcement. This changed with iOS 8, which adopted file-based encryption. Apple does not hold the decryption key and cannot be compelled to overuse the data, even when presented with government warning. Companies like Grayshift, Cellbrite develop exploits that allow law enforcement to extract user data from iPhones without needing the user's passcode. In 2015 and 2016, a dispute unfolded between Apple and the FBI. The FBI recovered the iPhone 5C of one San Bernardino attackers and the iCloud backups of the phone from a month and a half before the shooting. The U.S. government attempted to obtain a court order under All Writs Act, compelling Apple to produce a modified version of iOS that would allow investigators to brute force the device's passcode. Tim Cook responded on the company's website outlining a need for encryption, arguing that a backdoor would compromise the privacy of all iPhone users. The DOJ withdrew its request after the FBI bought an exploit to bypass the iPhone's passcode. As a countermeasure, Apple implemented USB restricted mode, which subsequently exploits too. In 2016, researchers discovered the Pegasus suite of exploits targeting iOS and Android, which led to significant international media coverage. Some Pegasus exploits are zero-click, meaning that they can fully compromise a device with no user interaction. For example, sending a malformed iMessage to the user that would not even trigger a notification. Pegasus can collect most data, including chats, passwords, and photos, and turn the iPhone's microphone and camera on remotely. Apple quickly issued an update fixing ForceSentry and other known Pegasus exploits. Though Pegasus continued to be used, relying new exploits, Apple announced a new bug bounty for vulnerabilities and added an optional lockdown mode to iOS 16 that reduces the iPhone's attack surface. Many security researchers have criticized Apple's bug bounty for underpaying researchers, being uncommunicative, and slow to fix vulnerabilities. And two Apple employees told Washington Post that the company has a massive backlog of bugs that it hasn't fixed. Prominent victims of Pegasus include Jamal Khashoggi. I don't know who that is if y'all do. and numerous activists, businessmen, and politicians. Pegasus has been widely used since 2011 and is still used by law enforcement and governments as of July 2022. All right, so let's get to the legacy of the iPhone. The original iPhone has been described as a revolutionary, a breakthrough in handheld computers, the best phone that anyone has ever made. It is now Apple's best-selling product that can be credited with helping Apple be one of the most valuable publicly traded companies by 2011. Newer iterations have also received praise and awards. Successive iPhone models have generated significant fan enthusiasm, with many customers queuing up in front of Apple stores on launch day. As of 2021, the iPhone has a higher brand loyalty than any other smartphone. Yeah, so at the end of the day, the iPhone is probably one of the biggest cult followings of smartphones. From their original to now, that is all I have ever had is iPhones. And between their encryption and their security, especially with iMessages, it makes it very difficult for people to get into your iMessages, except of course if you know you're the government using Pegasus or any law enforcement agent. But overall, for everyday uses, the iPhone is one of the most better encrypted, especially using iMessages back and forth. That's why you never want to use it. Green message, always blue messages only. But again, thank you for tuning in to Wiki Reads, and until next time.